What is going on, Cowboys Nation? Welcome into the Dallas Cowboys Coalition. And man, we're having fun dealing with these OTAs and camp battles and different news. It's the honeymoon season. Everybody's excited for the most part. Dilly went out there, caught some sun on his head on the boat, even. Ooh. Yeah,
It
that's going to be
hurts.
fun later. Yeah. But you caught some fish though. That's all that really matters. Getting out there and getting after it. Right? You and your uncle and some others catching some
Yes,
sharks and
sir.
whatnot.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I'm paying the price now for it, but it was all worth it. And you know what, dude? It sounds like everyone's an all-pro right now at OTAs.
Oh, I mean, yeah. I mean, Maurice
Pretty,
Leofau load him up 12 sacks this season, right?
at least.
Reclaiming his career, reclamation of his career, the moving it outside has done everything. Which, hey, I'm here for it. Hey, I'm sure. By all means, Maurice
Listen,
Leofau, go do your thing.
let the wrecking balls be wrecking balls. That's what I say.
Oh
We got a
yeah,
couple of them.
yeah. I do like a good old wrecking ball on defense. That is right on defense. That is, but yeah, Shotty out here getting after it, talking again. We got another presser that he went through and talks about. But I think today though, obviously we love camp battles. Who doesn't love a good camp battle? And that's something they've been on about and something that Shotty's talked about since, he took the job, right? Competition, competition, competition. And, we're seeing, we saw that unfold some last year, right? OTAs, training camp, whatnot. And hey, look, we're seeing it right now too. Some that we kind of anticipated being, a camp battle. And then Shotty kind of actually set it on wax, if you will. And then, some battles maybe out of maybe left it a little bit we wasn't expecting. That's kind of the left tackle, right? Tyler Guyton, Mr. Nathan over there doing his thing. So yeah, but we have other ones to talk about, and
We sure do.
everyone. Yeah, we have, and everyone. Well, I won't say everyone, but yeah, why not everyone? Running back too, right? That was such a big topic last year with when we was starter was a topic last year, right? Before they settled in on Williams, and then it was Miles Sanders, then the injury, and then of course they drafted Jaydon Blue, they drafted Mafah, and well, we're waiting for consistency. Consistency,
Mm.
right? When's Blue coming? The LV cleats, consistency. Then we get a little glimpse, week 18, a little glimpse of Blue, and you see, like, oh man, if he could just put it together, is where we're at, Dilly. And a different tone, we could say, from Shoddy and when he's speaking about Jaydon Blue so far in these OTAs.
Well, those are the kind of things I think, we joke about these guys being all pros and all that in OTAs, but
Mm,
what your head coach is saying, what other players are saying about you, I think that is something that is super important to pay attention to at OTAs. And here you have a guy who did kind of all the wrong things last year, and that was kind of his thing in college, right? It was okay. This guy's a little bit of a knucklehead, not getting into legal trouble or anything, but just doesn't really put all the effort he needs to put into football, right? And so here you now have a guy going into his second year who displayed a lot of that in his first year. And now the head coach is saying, well, there's been a lot of maturity. He's doing everything right that he's supposed to be doing. We're excited about him. And we all know the abilities there as far as what he brings, the explosive back, all that. But it's, can he pass pro? Does he know his assignments? Where is he going to be at third down? Is he going to make a play that gets your quarterback hurt? What are the things that he can improve on heading into the second year, and the big thing is the maturity and just the paying attention and being able to learn on a consistent basis. And there's the word consistency. And you've got your head coach giving him a major shout out in the press conference.
yeah.
That's huge news, I think, for this running back battle.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing every coach has like coach speak, right? And we kind of know some of the goaded coach speaks in the world. I definitely know when it comes to Shoddy, consistency is a coach speak term for him, right? And you watched him use that where that was Diggs at moments last year, other players, Blue. So he uses it as a very blanketed word because it can mean a lot. Whether that's are they getting the scheme down mentally, right? Okay, hey, are they doing the things to carry themselves as a professional the right kind of way? Hey, is there a gap in their game where we can't trust them, right? So the consistency can mean a lot of different things. But that's Shoddy. If there's an issue that he needs them to work on, he's going to go to the consistency bag. That's where he's going to be. But for him to mention him in the light with that terminology, I'm right there with you. Refreshing. Yeah, look, and I go back to at the end of the game and the post game of Week 18 versus the Giants, right? And Blue's there taking some questions, and Blue says, I understand I have to be more consistent. And I thought it was really big because there was so much talk throughout Cowboys Nation And Shotty, what are you doing? Shotty, what's going on? Why aren't you getting it done? So on and so. Why aren't you playing him? And then to hear Blue co-sign what the coach talked about throughout the process, right? And that, I understand I need to carry myself a little bit differently, be more consistent, was awesome to hear. And now we get to the OTAs, and now we're seeing the coach acknowledge that he's taken that step forward so far. Is great for the running back battle right now, and great for Blue and what he has opportunity to be for this team.
Yeah, we all know his ceiling, right? What's another word for consistency? It's the floor. What are you going to do that is considered a massive mistake, right? And we see it at the left tackle position all the time with Guyton. Floor, really, I don't know if it's raised that much versus where you kind of expect it to be at this point. A lot of it due to injuries and all that. But for the running back, with Blue, the floor, is that a thing where the floor is like fumbling issues? Is the floor so low because he's not where he's supposed to be? What are the things that he's doing? I'd like to hear more about that from Schottenheimer, specifically on the consistency front. When he is talking about consistency, what are the things that he wants to see from his running back to consider him to be more consistent? I like to, if I was in the crowd there, if I was a media member and I was asking questions, I would ask that question. What is your expectation around consistency for Blue? And hopefully one of these guys asks that question, because I'm really curious what his answer would be.
Shotty would probably just say, yeah, just a day to day. Yeah, just day to day, coming in, making sure attention to detail. I like
just be super general. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I got Shotty's bad. Like, again, I think Shotty will give you good stuff, and I think Shotty is more transparent than most coaches, or particularly I'll speak for us in what we've had in the past. But there's still a bag that he has that sounds very honest, if you will. But basically, just day to day. Yeah,
you got to have your bag of answers, right? Yeah. Your bag of answers ready, and then when you feel like it, you go in a little deeper. But just your general speak for the most part.
Yeah, but I mean, look, Mafah's doing some things out there as well too. They were talking about the red zone work, and they were doing some things in the passing game, catching out of the backfield, right? Something that Shotty and Cruz talked about. They want their running backs to be able to do, and then it might have been Tommy Yarish. I don't remember. I don't want to misquote. I can't remember who, but they highlighted. I saw the little blurb highlighted. In OTAs, anything's possible. Israel Anaconda getting more work than anticipated so far. So a guy who, I think the Cowboys liked during the draft process, going back a couple of years where he got drafted by the Jets, has kind of bounced around a little bit. We've talked about that with San Francisco, then Green Bay, and now here. And they brought him in last year, and then he's able to get him in the building, let him understand what the scheme is, made sure they kept him and brought him over for camp this year, getting a little extra work at OTAs. And he has the type of things bag-wise from a player standpoint that works very well with this scheme. And I absolutely loved him coming out of Pittsburgh and the things that he's able to do. So something to keep an eye on. Again, we're just looking at OTAs, Hall of Fame running back on deck. I'm joking.
I'm not familiar as much with Anaconda's game. What does he do versus like a Blue or a Mafah? Blue's obviously the speed guy. Mm-hmm. Mafah's the power guy. Mm-hmm. What separates Anaconda from those guys?
He's probably the best mixture of both to an extent, right? Where he's one cut, go, gig on, home run capability within that, and very well catching the ball out of the backfield. I would tell people, don't worry about the jet save or anything else, or very limited save anywhere else. Just go back to Pitt. Go back to Pitt and watch his last two seasons, or just watch his final season if you want to, and what he was able to do there. And like I said, within this scheme of what they're going to ask these guys to do with the combo blocks and getting that one cut, get and go, with more, like I would say, is he as fast as Blue? No, but he's got speed to burn. Is he as physical as Mafah? Probably not. But if they, for lack of a better term, if they had a baby, this is kind of the baby that you would have between the two. So just something you should keep an eye on. Again, he's getting more work than anticipated.
It sounds like you're describing Malik Davis. It's so funny.
Younger and faster, yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
which there's the loss. And again, Malik Davis, we talked about before. Just the lost guy on the tribe. Whatever. He was number 2 last year. Maybe should have got more work. We're at OTAs. Oh, yeah, he's out there. Nobody's really mentioning him, and then all of a sudden we'll get to week 1. Oh, well, your number 2 is Malik Davis all over again.
Yeah, he just seems like the trustworthy guy that you can break glass in case of emergency. He'll always be there on your practice squad, right? Because he's not going to get elevated anywhere else, unfortunately, it seems like. Just kind of unfortunate for him because he's not a bad player. He had a couple really good games last year for the Cowboys, a couple of really big plays. So I like to see him maybe get a shot at camp, but it doesn't sound like he's really going to be a man in consideration versus these other guys.
Hey, when you get drafted, they want to see a walkthrough. And right now, I mean, we're ranking this in OTA land. Blue seems to be the leader in the clubhouse right now.
And he should
For
be.
what
I
it's
mean,
worth.
honestly, from where he was drafted, from the skill set he brings, to combine that with what Javonte gives you, it should be Blue's job to essentially lose. It should be a battle, quote unquote battle. But just like the left tackles, one guy should have a head start over everybody else. And I think that's obviously Blue.
I will whisper, just keep an eye on the Bandaconda. Whisper. Small
Okay.
whisper. Small whisper.
My Anaconda don't want none.
No, if you can't run the ball, hon. Neither here nor there. Hey, listen. Well, speaking of battles, and look, I think this is something when we saw the signing, we anticipated being a battle, but Shotty put it on wax and said it right. They signed Sam Howell, quarterback, definitely an upgrade from Will Greer last year. And he's like, oh, okay, we got Joe Milton year 2. Sam Howell's done some things in the league as a starter, right? What's that? Are we upgrading the third? What are we looking at? And yeah, I mean, Shotty's out there said, yeah, it's going to be a battle. Something that we talked about Dilly off camera before. The kind of like there being the MVSs in and stuff like that, a little bit higher quality, if you will, down the road wide receiver. Well, you want to have a certain type of wide receiver for the battle, right? For these guys to battle with and have a guy who's got some pelts on the wall, not just no disrespect to young guys and super rookies or anything like that, right? But you have a particular thing there for those guys to see where they're at. And yeah, Shotty out here talking about, the battle for number 2 is up. Not that either guy would go anywhere per se, but yeah, Sam Howell versus Joe Milton. Which I would think we're having this conversation OTAs, right? Way too soon, but he said it, right? Shotty said it on record. I don't think it's going to be the Joe Milton show in preseason. I think Sam Howell's going to get some burn for sure.
Yeah, and that's how it should be, in my opinion. Listen, Milton's got a cannon, right? I was there in person.
Bazooka Joe.
I saw this man's cannon, and it's and that sounds weird. I'm sorry, but it's scary because I feel bad for the receivers, right? I mean, broken fingers, just waiting on a hitch, right? I mean, this guy doesn't understand, and I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but he doesn't quite understand how to take anything off the ball. I think he's even been quoted as saying it's not his responsibility to put touch on these passes in so many words, right? He's going to get the ball there as fast as he possibly can. It's up to receivers to catch it. And that's not necessarily the case. You've got to have a little bit of touch, a little bit of feel for what your receivers want, what they're able to do. You don't want to whip a 100-mile-an-hour ball 10 yards down the field and expect your guys to catch it, right? And that also results in things like overthrows, which we saw a ton of in the preseason, some in the regular season towards the end when he got his chances. It's a guy who I think could really have a lot to gain in like a USFL league, right? I think that if he got just a ton of in-game experience, I think that could really help him understand the game better and how to put some more touches on his balls better. Because I don't think, the reps in camp and it's not real football, right? These guys, especially the quarterback positions and the positions that are super hard to play and understand, they have to have real game action. And I just don't know if a guy like Joe Milton is going to get the play time in live action on a consistent basis where he's going to be able to develop where he needs to develop. Whereas a Sam Howell, I think, is closer to where you want from a consistency standpoint. He can make a lot of the really easy throws that I think Milton sometimes can struggle with. I think heading into OTAs and then eventually camp, I would think that maybe Howell, in my eyes, might have the lead, and he'd have to go out and basically solidify and cement his position there as QB2 on the roster. And they'll probably carry 3, if I had to guess, because of the way the rules are.
Right.
So it's not like they're going to lose anybody. But I would think the backup on game day, in my eyes today, I think Sam Howell might have the edge.
Going to be a fun battle. I like the way they staggered the battle because you got Joe in here, Will Greer, not a lot of pressure there, right, from Will Greer. And let him get in here, get all the work that he possibly can. And they did, right? We looked at preseason last year, and all the work, all the reps, right? And just kind of going through that. And like, okay, you had a year, all right. Not a lot of game time last year, but you got some week 18 work in, right? And it's time for you to now next year, year 2 into the scheme, same scheme, you know where it is. We got to make sure and solidify that number 2 spot. So you're not going to get a Will Greer. No respect to Will Greer, right? Maybe a former Cowboys coach. We know we like taking ex-quarterbacks and making them coaches, right? No, and no respect to Will Greer. But we're going to up the ante a little bit here with a guy who's been a starter in this league and done some things, and you got to earn it a little bit. So I'm excited for the battle, and I think it's the right move. And if you're developing someone, I like the development of, not that it wasn't pressure, right? There's pressure in the NFL to perform, right? But realistically, not a whole lot of pressure on him last year. It was about getting here and learning it. We're not going to put a guy in the room that's really going to press you to a certain extent from where our organization's standing at right now. But now it's different. You got a guy in the room, and guess what? Shotty on open mic said it, so it's up now. And they've had the conversation once again, but
Yeah,
I
and
mean, it.
if the team makes a move for you, right, that they trade, give them draft capital, like you're going to have the edge on that position battle. Well, this is a whole nother season now at this point, and this is, I think, a true battle, and it'll be exciting to see how that turns out. And we talked running backs, we talked quarterbacks. Let's talk receivers. Yeah, we know receiver 1, 2, 3, wide receiver 1 and 2 haven't been there in OTAs. So now you got Turpin, you've got Flanoy, you've got some of these others out there that are, looking good supposedly here in OTAs and fighting against air.
Looking great.
All pros all over the field. But realistically, what's kind of your outlook? What's your expectation for this receiver room heading into the 2026 season? Maybe start with camp and then go beyond that.
I'm looking at Holden, right? And can Trayshawn Holden make that year 2 jump as Flo did and really kind of walk through the door? Because I think the four's kind of set. We kind of know the 4. You kind of talked about them, but that opens up 5 and 6. Where does that 5 and 6 going to come from? Right now Mingo's in camp. I mean, at OTAs, but he's growing. Right, last year the deal after we traded the 4th for him. So I mean, get ready, and it's more precautionary than anything. So I mean, he'll have an opportunity there for 4 or 5. Same thing with Holden. I think that's just for me. And look, there's a lot of talk in OTAs too that Flo might take another jump, which I mean, by all means, go ahead and jump again. I mean, he's getting some slot work. Their OTAs, not full time, but they're moving it around, getting into year 2 of this program and this offense, and moving some guys around, which is exciting. But I'm looking at that 4 or 5 spot. Or, well, I will say 4 or 5.
Well, maybe
because Turpin is a weapon returning wise. How consistently do you want to have him on the field as a wide receiver? So there's a little bit of there. So we'll go top 3, but Turpin's in the building. But who is that 4, 5, 5, 6 guy that they want to get into?
And I mean, 4 and 5, it's interchangeable, right? Once you get past
special
3,
teams.
You're looking for special teams guys. You're looking for guys that are playing receiver that have specific skill sets. Turpin has the speed, right? The danger is his speed, and so you don't really have that with anybody else. So when we talk 4 or 5, that's probably why Turpin is solidified at 4. But 4 and 5 should see ample playing, or maybe not ample, but enough playing time to warrant obviously the roster spot, all that. Turpin has a special teams element. Really, it's 5 for me. And I think Holden maybe has the lead at this point. If I had to guess, he's got the year under his belt. Maybe Mingo. I don't really know. It's going to be an interesting.
What does the rookie come in and do? Yeah, what does the rookie
do? Right, and he's got the speed too. And so who's going to play special teams? Can any of these guys tackle? Are they going to be gunners? Can they block? What are they going to do? So you're looking at that in camp. You're looking for maybe a backup punt returner, maybe if it's not Downs, right? Who knows? But you're looking for a backup punt returner. They've got to build out their game elsewhere other than just that receiver position at that point. And then you talked about Flanoy. I put out on Twitter, Flanoy, all my chips are pushed into this Flanoy corner here because I think this is a guy he made a jump last year. Some say it was a breakout season. I don't know. It kind of was. He cracked the egg, right? If he was a dinosaur in an egg, he started to crack the egg. But let's see him really break through this year, right? I think he's got a good shot, even if the volume isn't there. It wasn't there last year. I think he had 40-something receptions, I want to say. Maybe he has somewhere in the 50s or low 60s. I don't know. Maybe that's high for this team. But it's not necessarily about the volume to me. It's about what you do with it. Do they trust you to play multiple spots in the slot, outside, wherever? What do you do with the opportunities when they're presented to you? Are you making clutch plays and clutch times, right? Clutch moments. What are you doing when the ball's in your hand? And Flanoy has that yak ability, hands down. I mean, he's a bigger dude. Fast enough, not like a burner, but fast enough. We saw him break tackles kind of left and right. Physical guy. It's a guy that, for wide receiver 3, phenomenal, and he might have wide receiver 2 upside, and that's a big deal. We don't need to get into the George Pickens contract.
Oh, Lord.
But that's a big deal heading into next year, right? with that big unknown. I mean, we don't even know if he's going to be in mandatory OTAs or not. I think he will be. But, that's a big deal heading into next year. Do you have a guy on the horizon who could take that wide receiver 2 position potentially if your current wide receiver 2 isn't here next year? So,
I mean, I think, in the competition realm of things, right? We'll kind of keep it going here. Wide receiver guy that's not really been mentioned a whole lot at OTAs yet. Remember, they signed Tyler Johnson as well too, and he's a guy slot work, can get after it for sure. Guy that can return kicks and punts for you. He's done that in the league. Now, Shoddy hasn't said there's a competition there for a returner. Okay, is that a signing? I know when they signed him, I was like, oh, my ears kind of went up a little bit. I was like, oh, Tyler Johnson. It's an interesting signing because he does a lot of the same things that Turpin does. So I wonder how much of a, or even if there is, for that matter, is there a battle there happening? Because I mean, contractually they could do some things on the Turpin if they wanted to. I'm not saying they would, but how do they feel about Turpin in the return game? Because like, if we're being honest, punt game last year was not good. I think that's fair to say. I think Turpin would also say, "Hey, man, I need to be better in the punt game." Yeah, he's like all the time, and then catching and shake his head, like somebody shaking their head or letting it bounce. Yeah, I mean,
the fair catches, man. That's two
yeah.
weeks. It was a back-to-back weeks, right? That's enough to just, if I had hair, I'd pull it all out. That was insanity.
Right. So I just look at Tyler Johnson. Again, we don't know. We don't have the answers. I just look at what he brings to the table when they sign him, what he can do as a wide receiver and returner. I'm like, Shoddy, you trying to get a competition going there? You haven't said anything. That's why I thought from the outset. Nothing's really been talked about in the OTAs yet. That's something we'll have to kind of wait and see when it's maybe we get into camp. I don't know about mandatory camp, but actually Oxnard camp, I should say. So, but yeah, keep a name on. For me, I'm keeping an eye on Tyler Johnson just to see what kind of competition he's going to have for Turpin.
Yeah, and in all fairness, to Turpin, it's the first year of a new special teams coordinator.
Sure.
None of the blocking was atrocious. Everything about it was just bad. The only thing that was good about special teams last year was Butter Aubrey, and that's just him doing Butter things, right? But your return units, your coverage units, none of it was good. You're constantly losing the field position battle. Some of that has to do with your defense. A lot of it has to do with your special teams. Special teams was just abysmal last year all the way across. So I'm looking for Turpin to have hopefully a rebound year, but if not, he's a candidate to look at next year to possibly move on from at that point, I think.
No, before we segue, I should say, I'll go to Lamb, who's sometime at OTAs, right? But Lamb talks about going against this defense in OTAs, and I think he said frustrating was the term. Was that what it was? I think frustrating, and learning it, but talked about how good it was to go against it to figure out what they need to do. Check mark there, right? If we're having the conversation in general about what's this defense looking like very early in OTAs and where it's at, and to hear Lamb talk about it being frustrating, I thought it was an interesting term from him, Lord Dilly, with the frustrating side. So defense getting acclimated. Lamb's like, this is a little frustrating. Music to my ears in OTAs, anyways.
Frustrate your all pros, man, opposite across the field from you, because it just makes everybody better. You couldn't heap better praise on a defense that was just so abysmal last year. And I don't know who he was talking about specifically, if there was anybody specific or not, but just to hear that the cornerbacks are doing their job. First off, they got the communication down, it sounds like. So that's first step. Great news, right? And Caleb Downs, I'm sure, has a lot to do with that, and just how smart he is lining guys up already, lining up veterans when they're in the wrong spot just a few days into his first season here as a Cowboy. So that's great news. But to hear the health of the secondary improving, Ravel's running around out there without an e-brace on, looking smooth. I'm very excited for what this secondary is now this year, health-wise, player-wise, all that, versus what it was last year. And so far, I think they're off to a phenomenal start. As good as a start as you could hope for, and not having pads on and all that in OTAs.
Yeah, well, I mean, last year OTAs was, Elam, man. Elam's looking good in OTAs.
Yeah.
This year, Kalen Carson looking really good in OTAs. It's a fun time. Anything's possible.
Yeah.
And look, I do think Carson, when he was healthy last year at times, I think he was your best cornerback last year, honestly. So it's good to hear these progressing. Like, all news is good news. When we're hearing good stuff, we want to hear that. Look, Durant out there getting the interception even. Right. Okay. Ravel, right. The biggest thing, we talk about health all the time. Ravel, no limitations, no brace. Excited to see those things for him into year 2 as he's progressing, and a guy that we're looking at to see if he can take over a starting cornerback spot 1 year removed from being a 3rd round draft pick. I don't say disappointed. Like, man, we got Jalen Thompson, and out of the gate and all the way till now, they're working on the cords, right? A strained pec, but not concerning.
Yeah.
Preventative. just taking our time with him. But man, I want to see him out there a little bit, even though it's OTAs.
As long as he's out there with the pads on,
it's all good.
When we get to Oxnard, it's all good. But talking about Ravel and some of these other guys too, we were talking offline earlier, and some of the things we look for, you can't put a lot of stock into OTAs and what you see, right? There's guys that are third, fourth string guys that are playing with the starters because other guys.
No, Dilly, they're all pros right now. I saw it in OTAs. They're all pros. Okay.
So it's Super Bowl bound. All right, I got it. But really, you're looking for health is one of the things I look at, right? And you're looking at guys who, especially really specifically lower leg injuries. And you look at Ravel, knee brace last year, didn't seem comfortable at all, had the setback early in the season in camp, pushed him back. And so now for him to be out there without the brace on, running around, all reports are positive that he's looking good. He's feeling good. His mentals are there. Ravel could be a guy who could have a breakout season, really turn both him and Overshown, two guys that could really turn how this defense was last year into something special, or at least serviceable this year, given the increased health, the better health of those guys, plus Bland potentially, plus the additions. It's basically a whole new look defense. Even the guys that were here last year weren't even healthy. So health plus new additions equals question mark. We'll see. But it could be something good.
I mean, well, speaking of Overshown, just married over the weekend, Saturday.
Yay.
And, salute to him. Salute to the 903 brethren of mine. Shotty was there. Britt Brown was there. A little family action, if you will. Football is family. Came back, said, yeah, I got my wedding ring, and now it's Super Bowl ring. It's ring season. I said, okay, Overshown, I see you. But as we're mentioning Overshown, are we ready for Overshown as a Mike linebacker? Right? That's been kind of the buzz here since he's came back and joined the OTAs after getting married. Once again, salute to him getting married. But, Mike work. Green Dot action. Although the Green Dot's been traveling around a little bit, but are we starting to see a form here, Dylan? Remember whatever Shotty opening said, I have my favorite, but I ain't going to say nothing. Do we think Overshown is who Shotty was talking about?
I just want to put it out there. Overshown was the guy that I talked about way back when he said that first. It's a guy that's been here, a guy that's obviously a super smart player, has great, athleticism, great traits as long as his legs are okay. Really a player who I think was on track to be a potential all-pro in the NFL. But, injuries can derail things, and unfortunately that's what happened.
Right.
But I thought it was Overshown all along, if we're being honest with you. Now, is he going to really be the Mike? Is he really going to wear the green dot? I don't know. Winters was there as well. So it could be some switching around, some movement. We talk about being multiple, moving guys around the defense. We'll see. We'll have a better idea come camp time. But like I said just a few minutes ago, you're seeing guys playing kind of all over the place where they won't necessarily be come camp in the actual regular season.
Wait. You're telling me Caleb Downs, who's getting this OTA work as the punter protector, is not going to play special teams and be the punt protector?
You know what? I sure hope not. He better not be anywhere near special teams. I don't care if he's good at it or not. I don't care. You've got fifth string linebackers that can go be a punt protector. Leave him off the field, please.
To the point of the Green Dots moved around a little, right? They've thrown it on, our guy Shamar James. They've definitely moved it around a little bit. Winners, they've moved it around. But yeah, the thing since Demo's been back, right? Second team Mike, in OTAs. And then first team Will is what they're saying. But then yesterday, of course, this is recorded. So this yesterday, I do mean Tuesday. It was him and Barham with the first string. I don't know. It gets me excited. I've told people before, I love the draft that we've had, right? Jaishawn Barham is who I'm the most excited to see from this draft and what it is. And then I'm hearing Overshown and Barham with the first team. I'm like, oh, that's, you could do some things with that. I kind of like that.
Barham is just a scary dude, bro. He's got the body of like a thick defensive end, but he's as fast as a linebacker. Not like a spurner or anything, but the dude can move and he can hit. And I mentioned earlier, wrecking ball guys. Barham's a wrecking ball, dude. Just point him in a direction, watch him go. He's going to be a heavy blitz specialist, I think, in his first season. And then, as he learns the position and learns how to play linebacker, more and more. He'll do other things, I'm sure. But for his rookie season, as much as you can get him moving forward to just nail people and blow things up, whether that's the
Facts.
blocker or the ball, let him go. Same thing with Leofau. Those are two guys that I think you just gotta wind them up, and let them spin. The little toys that you wind them. That's them, man. Just wind it up and watch them go. And I'm excited. I mean,
Cue the Miley Cyrus. I come in like a wrecking
that's gonna
ball.
that's gonna be the. I gotta Photoshop that. That'll be the thumbnail. This Barham on a wrecking ball. I
Yeah,
love it.
him and Leofau. We got 2 wrecking balls.
Yeah.
Dadgummit.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
But no,
I mean,
Barham is a guy though. You just look at him and you could just get excited. And you saw the picture, I'm sure, next to Ezra Rock. He made Ezra Rock look like an infant. He was tiny.
yeah.
That doesn't get you excited. I don't know what will.
No, big no. Yeah, I'm excited to see that. But I mean, again, OTA is getting busy moving around. I mean, like we talked about earlier, Leofau. Now it's he's outside. Oh my goodness, his career's about to be resurrected. And he's getting to the quarterback. And yeah, okay, hey,
We'll see.
we hope so. It's good dog starting to see it right when the pads come on. But it's Jalen Cropper season to the extent. No disrespect to Jalen Cropper. Remember OTAs, he's made it there. Get down there, it starts out okay, and then it slowly fades. But it's cool, man. Look, health is wealth, right? We're getting through these things healthy so far with the mandatory camp coming on deck. So I'm excited to see these guys and everything, the intricacies, how they're working and moving guys around. And I do want to touch one more thing before we get out of here.
Sure.
I do want to talk about Rashan Gary for a second. And going off of the Armstead podcast, former offensive lineman in the NFL who just started doing his thing. And he had Tyler Smith on. And he asked Tyler Smith, said, hey, look, of all the additions this offseason, draft, free agency, trade, whatever, like, what's the one that's been most, I think he said impressive? I think it was what he asked, or most excited about, somewhere in that term. I'm paraphrasing there a little bit. And Tyler Smith mentioned Rashan Gary that was his answer. And my ears perked up. I was, oh, that's interesting. Could have went a lot of different ways and went with Rashan Gary. And within that question or when that answer he had, he talks about like what they're doing in OTAs, and you do get film work, but it's very limited, obviously, in what they're doing right now. So once they're through with OTAs and they're in there with the trainers, getting the body work, icing up, all those things to get ready for the next day, you look over, you see Gary with the iPad, and he's like, what are you doing? And Gary's like, yeah, I'm just going through everything, the individual drills, and making sure all the guys are doing the right work and making sure they're attacking it the right kind of way for what we're trying to build here. And for Tyler Smith, and like, let's be clear about Tyler Smith, they all pro guard, all the answers in the world. And that's the thing that he really took away and impressed him. To me, those are the things that excite me from a football standpoint. When we talk about changing the culture of things, whenever Shotty was originally hired, his opening presser talking about, we got to get guys that love football. To me, culture isn't an overnight change, right? It's a change that's built foundationally and it's built brick by brick. And to me, that answer from Tyler Smith and highlighting what's going on at OTAs, where he said you get about 12 plays in individual drills, not a whole lot, but Gary's looking at that in OTAs in that realm. But I think it's just a great brick when we're talking about changing the culture, specifically just for Divas. Forget the program in-house, right, Dilly? Forget the program in-house. I'm talking about just from a standpoint of the defensive side, that kind of brick, and being that attention to detail and getting after it. And right, I check mark as to why maybe Christian Parker said, hey, go get me Gary as well, too, because I understand what he's going to bring to that side of the ball in that spectrum for me.
Yeah, and listen, this team, I've said it before, and maybe it's harsh, I don't know, but this team seems to have lacked professionalism in the past. I mean, professionalism as in, when you're not on the field, what are you doing? Are you doing the stuff you're supposed to be doing as far as studying? Are you putting in the work in the weight room? Are you're paying attention? And you heard it multiple times, even during like the McCarthy era. Guys weren't practicing well, practices weren't going well, and it wasn't getting corrected. That screams a lack of professionalism to me, and that's a cultural thing. Okay, now you're in year 2 of Schottenheimer. You talk about culture change, like you said, it doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process, but you've got to bring in guys who are interested in changing the culture. And you drafted Caleb Downs. Super smart guy, already vocal on the field, telling people where to go, going to be a culture changer for today and the long run. But then you look at specific rooms, you look at the edges and the D line, and Rashan Gary's a guy who's been around for a little while, and he's not a guy that's going to get you 12, 15 sacks in a season, but he's a guy who is going to be a leader in the locker room, an inspiring presence, and he's a guy that the young guys can look at and say, I want to do what he does as a professional, and see him studying and all that stuff. But on the field, he's going to help these other guys get their sacks. Going back to kind of the numbers talk, he's not going to get you double-digit sacks every season, but he's going to allow the Malachi Lawrences, the Ezrakus to go on feast because he's going to keep the team busy on the other side of that formation, right on the left side or whatever side he's on. Maybe take up a couple blockers every now and then. But if you leave him one-on-one, you're dedicating two guys over to Ezraku or the other side. He's a guy that he can get sacks. I mean, he's had nice seasons where he's been a high contributor pressure-wise and sack-wise, and so is he an elite stud player? No, but he's a very, very, very nice addition to a team that needs a ton of pieces on that defensive line to keep these guys fresh at the edges, keep the edges fresh. I'm very excited for what Rashan Gary is going to bring to this team this season.
I think if people liked what Clowney was able to do coming in late for this team, I think he'll give you what Clowney did plus some.
Sure.
I think that's what he's going to bring to the table. And again, it's not that Clowney had an all-pro season last year or nothing like that. I'm not saying Rashan Gary's going to have an all-pro season, but I think he's a guy that's very good against the run. And when I say very good against the run, like DeMarcus Lawrence type.
Well, that's who he reminds me of, is DeMarcus Lawrence. He's not going to get you a bunch of sacks, but
yeah, he's going to get you that 7 to 9 sacks, right? Bully the edge a little bit, but you need those guys, and that's something we desperately missed last year in a lot of ways. But I want to the point that you made about the professionalism, right? I just think there are players, and this is all professional sports. So this isn't just, the Dallas Cowboys, right? Before it says, oh, Nick said, no, not that. What I'm saying is there are guys and players around these professional sports that they love what the game affords them, but they don't love the game. And I know some of those guys personally in my life, right, within that spectrum that I played with. But that's whenever I hear Shotty about guys that love football, kind of is like that overarching consistency talk from him. It's do you love the game of football? Are you going to do the right things? Are you going to be, locked in when you need to be locked in and not what the game affords you at times? So whenever you do hear, we're practicing bad and we're just not correcting it, or, particularly McCarthy, we had a bad, after the game, I was a bad practice week. We just didn't get it done. Well, I mean, that's your job as the coach though, right? I don't want to hear about we had bad practice. We had bad practices. Well, why didn't you fix it? What was going on there? And look, and I was a McCarthy guy personally, to be clear, but those kind of things aggravated the hell out of me when it came to that. So yeah, when I hear that about Gary, and those are the things I think whenever it's about loving the game of football that he means. It's not, I love going out here and playing a kid's game, right? It's what are you doing in the dark that's going to make it better on the field? And I think those are the things that excite me about and the idea of what they want to do.
You've got to, it's the same thing as sales, right? I'm in sales. And so when you're selling to a room of people, right, you've got to have one person in that room bought in, right? A loud vocal person, a leader type personality that's bought in, and they'll sell it to everybody else. I think the Cowboys have that, not just with Gary, but multiple guys in that room. They have guys bought in the secondary, the cornerback room, defensive back room, linebacker room. They've got guys bought in kind of all over the place, and it's infectious.
Overshown, yeah.
Overshown. It's truly infectious. Just like when you lose a bunch, right? And you got a bunch of losers and guys that don't want to, put in the effort. That's contagious as well. And so I think the Cowboys, with the additions they brought in as far as leadership qualities and what they want to do, loving the game of football, it's not just the right kind of guys who that's their only trait, but it's those kinds of guys. And by the way, they can play on the field as well. They're pretty damn good football players. So I think the Cowboys are really building this thing out in the best possible way that they possibly can, in my opinion.
Big facts. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. With that being said, man, we're just right around the corner. We can almost taste it. Mandatory, right? The mandatory mini camp and
Pickens watch.
We're officially there now. Yeah, I think like we talked about this before, right? Like this voluntary stuff, people were in and out in general. Was a concern. Obviously, look, for me, we'll get out of here on this. Is for me, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I've said it in the spaces. I've said it before. Look, I'm not tripping if he doesn't pull up to the mandatory mini camp. As long as he's there day one in Oxnard, I'm cool. That's it. As long as they're day one in Oxnard, I'm cool. However, though, Dylan, This is Cowboys Nation. And we know if he does not pull up for this mandatory minicamp, which Shotty has been very I won't say very vocal. He's been very consistent. How about that? I expect him to be here. He's not saying he's going to be here. I expect him to be here. Well, you can expect a whole lot of things, but the fallout will be what the fallout is, Dylan. We'll be here for it.
Yeah, he is selling his brand right now, is what he should be doing anyways, because he's got a big paycheck coming potentially next season. So the best thing he could do for himself, and if his agent is not recommending it, his agent is not very smart, which I know Mulligat is very smart. So the best thing he could do is show up, lay the foundations in camp, and move on from there and put yourself together a really nice season and go get paid next year, whether that's a tag or something else. But we'll see. We'll see. All eyes are on Pickens right
next
now.
week. Hey, in the building next week for sure. So, yeah, man, we'll put a pin in it there. Of course, we're live tomorrow night. What time we live tomorrow night?
9 p.m. Eastern.
9 p.m.
So 9
Central. Yeah. So can't wait to get after it tomorrow for sure. Appreciate everybody that is going to see this and join us tomorrow. How about them apples? And of course, hit the like, hit the subscribe. All the regular YouTube stuff that people got to say. Y'all know. Look, y'all know. I ain't got to say it every time. Y'all know what it is. Like and subscribe.
The loves, the subs, the comments, and the shares.
The comments and the shares. Right. It's free $99 to share. There you go. I'm giving Dilly that one. Appreciate y'all. We'll talk to y'all later.
Cowboys Nation, stand up tall. We'll never let spirit fall. Let's go, baby! Blue and white will always fight. Determined